Good evening from Swansea, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for professional wrestling insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. Last night was WWE Raw. It was one which progressed a lot of storylines. Some people liked the show, some people didn't. We're going to get into that today. And of course, WWE's sale to Endeavor has now been completed as well, with UFC and WWE merging into TKO Group Holdings, and they are now live on the New York Stock Exchange as well. A big day for professional wrestling, for combat sports. Maybe one of the biggest days in the history of combat sports. But today, we're here to talk Raw. We'll probably jump into a bit of that as well. But firstly, the co-host of the show, Clark Taylor. How are things, Clark?
I'm doing so well. This is such a fascinating day in not only combat sports history, but professional wrestling history, across the board, WWE history. It was just a bit over a year ago. We were talking about Vince McMahon walking away, stepping down, retiring. And today, he's in a position unlike he's ever been before. We got a world-class, lifelong partnership with another business, with Endeavor, turn into TKO Holdings, and you've got ESPN involved with the UFC. You've got all these networks, all this stuff up in the air. It's kind of a groundbreaking day. It's fascinating. From a business standpoint, is the biggest wrestling's ever been. I mean, you just look at what the stock's done today. You look at what everything is that's happened. It's been a fascinating year. It will be a fascinating week, and it'll be even more fascinating to see what they do with this.
It absolutely will be. A lot is up in the air right now. You mentioned it, TV deals. What's going to happen with those? Who knows? It's going to be very interesting. And of course, MJF has been hyping up the bidding war of 2024. But I think that bidding war might actually be for WWE's television product. Because wow, oh wow, there's some real potential there. And there's some real potential for some shocking moves as well. But also joining us, we have a returning David Sheldon. How are things, David?
Hello, everybody. Super excited to be back. I had to take a short break for some family matters, but I am back today on a very, very important day for professional wrestling. Obviously, the merger of WWE and the UFC with an Endeavor really goes to show you, doesn't it, that no matter what you do, if you have money and you're old, you can get away with anything, because Vince is in a better position now than he's probably ever been before. I digress. Anyway, we'll talk about Raw today, a show that I'm slightly surprised that after watching the show and going online and seeing everyone talk, as you did, Ben, about how many storylines advanced, I'll beg to differ on that one. I thought there was a whole lot of wheel spinning on this show, despite the fact that I did enjoy the show overall. But yeah, I'm excited to get into it. Some interesting talking points, and let's get going.
Absolutely. And let's kick things off by talking about main event Jey Uso, who of course was recently traded to Monday Night Raw from Friday Night SmackDown to get away from the Bloodline. He opened up the show. He was cutting, a great promo. Kevin Owens came out. The two had a phenomenal exchange. They really, really did. Kevin Owens said that, "Hey, Jey, I just don't trust you about this one bit." Jey and Owens went back and forth a little bit, and then out came the Judgment Day. The Judgment Day is still trying hard to recruit Jey Uso into the Judgment Day. Why wouldn't they? He's a top prospect on the brand. Jey Uso super kicked Finn Balor. He was having none of it. This then led to Jey Uso and Kevin Owens teaming up to face the tag team champions, Finn Balor and Damian Priest. very, very fun opening contest on Monday Night Raw. A very fun impromptu opening contest. In the end, Jey Uso accidentally super kicked Kevin Owens, and the tag team champions in Finn Balor and Damian Priest won. And I'm very happy about this for two reasons. One, the tag team champions, in fact, the heel tag team champions, win in a non-title match. That's one thing I'm delighted about. Second thing, Jey Uso being added into, a match against the Judgment Day, it freshens it up. Some people were still complaining about this, but I had no issue with it whatsoever. Jey Uso and Owens versus Balor and Priest, that's enough of a difference to me, from Sami and Kevin going against Balor and Priest. That's enough of a difference to me that it was interesting. Jey Uso's freshening up the main event scene on the red brand. But Clark, give me your thoughts on this one.
I mean, I hear where you're coming from on it was entertaining and I enjoyed the match, but I have a few, I'm a part of maybe the complainers, and that might be my fault. I don't know. But at the end of the day, we have arguably the most accomplished, one half of the most accomplished tag teams of all time. And you can't trust him in a tag match. And this is supposed to be the beginning of his singles run. I mean, so he takes a loss, or Kevin does, right, in this tag match based on that super kick and whatnot, but it was telegraphed. It was spoon fed to us as soon as Kevin Owens said, I don't know if I trust you. How do you not trust him in a tag match? Especially given everything Jay's shown you. This is one of the most accomplished tag wrestlers of all time. And I didn't need it handed to me that Jay was going to accidentally mess up. It took the value out of the super kick that connected with Kevin. That super kick should have been a surprise, because a guy that is used to working as one half of arguably the most accomplished tag team in the history of the WWE doesn't usually miss. And that's not something that Kevin should have been able to predict before the match, because I saw it coming. It didn't feel like a turn was going to happen, but I mean, it was very obvious that Jay was going to mess up. Realistically speaking.
Yeah.
Why? It does nothing for Jay in singles, and it does nothing for Jay, the one half of the most accomplished tag team in WWE history. That's the only thing that bothered me. The talent involved in this match was off the charts. I was blown away by how Finn Balor looked. Finn Balor looked the best in the ring he's looked in a long time. He was comfortable with who he's working with, and that coup de grace was gorgeous. Everything. But I don't know what this did for Jay at all. If anything, it made Jay look dumb. Sorry.
I do have a rebuttal to what you just said there. Your claim about, Jay, he's a tag team specialist. He shouldn't be, accidentally super kicking people. Here's the thing, right? He was in a tag team, but he was not in a tag team with Kevin Owens. He was in a tag team with his twin his entire career. He wasn't tagging with other people. It was always his twin, Jimmy. They've got a special connection. They've been together since birth, right? That's not even like a normal tag team where you've, been together for 5-10 years. They've been together since birth. That's a different type of connection. They kind of just know where each other are. The fact that he hadn't teamed up with, Kevin or anybody other than Jimmy before, really, I feel like it made enough sense from a storyline perspective. I think you're trying to dig too much into this.
I don't think so. I think logically speaking, you look at Kevin Owens and he's coming off of a tag team title reign himself and has the opportunity to have a match with one half of the best tag team, arguably ever, most accomplished, right?
Yeah.
Who's buddies with his best buddy, Sammy. So you're telling me they have zero chemistry? He doesn't trust you?
Yeah, because they don't like each other. They don't like each other.
Even if they don't like each other, you'd rather, if you're picking up 2-on-2 playing basketball, if you don't like the guy and he's the next best guy on the court and he's on your team in a 2-on-2 game, you trust him because you know that you're the two best. It doesn't matter if he likes him or not.
He cost him the title.
Trust factor is different.
Twice. Well,
absolutely,
once.
For sure. They had a huge rivalry, but the respect level, it felt like Jey Uso got buried more than anyone during that segment. That's what bothered me about it. This is supposed to be a launching pad for Jey Uso's singles run. We watched him lose a tag match and cause his partner to lose it with essentially like a day one mess up. Oh no, he whiffed and he hit Kevin. Like, what? Like,
the one spot which everybody wants to be on Monday Night Raw is the opening slot,
of
where they
course.
come out and do that promo. Jey Uso, second week on Raw, he was able to come out and do that. I think he's elevated to a level he's never been at before, and I don't really think that this tarnished it. But David, give us your thoughts on this one.
So, first of all, I'd just like to ask you all a question. I'm going to come in nice and close to the microphone here. Hey, Ben, can they coexist? No, in all seriousness, though, yeah, I think, Clark, you're digging too much into this as well. And I do more agree with Ben than I agree with you. However, what I will say in defense, I always get frustrated when it's like, because we see this spot hundreds of times, that, the miscommunication, the super kick that goes wrong. What I never understand is why this then becomes such a point of contention, when in reality, it's just a wrestling move has gone wrong. It happens in one of every 2 tag matches. Somebody gets hit accidentally. That's what happens in wrestling. So I'll never understand where the whole drama comes of. Oh, they've done it now. They've made a huge mistake. It's wrestling. That in that extent, it does make them look a bit dull, and a bit foolish. However, on the other side of things, I do think exactly as you said, Ben. They're in a really, really, they've had an intense rivalry. Kevin Owens chronically can't trust people. This is his whole thing. He's the just like MJF can never trust people, even aside from Sammy, and even then, it's one of those things, I think, where the match was good. It was a really good opener. Again, it is similar to stuff we've seen before, but I do think Jey is a massive star, and I think that he's really getting a chance to shine on this. I think it's so damning right now when you look at the difference between how Jey feels on Raw and how Jimmy feels on SmackDown. And I say this with no disrespect to Jimmy at all, because I love both guys, but I feel like the Bloodline story is drowning a death over on SmackDown right now, whereas Jey, away from it all, actually gets the chance to show what he can do. I love the little flourishes with him, with Jey and all the members of the roster who he's annoyed in his time with the Bloodline, who he's cost titles, who he's beaten up, who he's all this. And, sometimes we've got to come back and face our demons. And I think that is a cool story for Jey. And it does give Monday Night Raw something that's interesting and something that's different. There isn't just Kevin and Sammy and Seth versus the Judgment Day again. So it's similar, but I think it's just about different enough. I do think Jey is the most interesting thing on Monday Night Raw right now. And I think that it's one of the kind of the main reasons, that I think they give you to watch. Since he's joined, that I do think he's done well. So yeah, I think there's arguments to be made that perhaps there was some silliness with regards to the super kick spot, but I certainly don't think that it killed it by any means. And I completely see where the whole I can't trust you thing comes from, because they've been bitter rivals for ages. And one more thing before I go, what I'll say with regards to the chemistry thing is that me and my for anyone who doesn't know, I've been a dancer since I was about 5 years old. Me and my dance partner have danced together for a decade. We know each other like the backs of our hands. If I then went and partnered with my dance partner's friend, who I danced with once about 5 years ago, chances are we're not going to have the same chemistry, and stuff is probably going to go wrong. So I don't think, no matter how well some people, it's a case of that different. It's the way that different different
chemistries
coexist within when they do or they don't, regardless of how kind of typically good they may be with somebody else. So yeah, I think good opener with some issues, but I did enjoy it.
I will say I 100% agree with that aspect, and I think it's really important. But my main point is they could have presented it in a way where Jay's tag team history was put over, and then the surprise moment of him messing up is a bigger deal. I think that's where the root of my complaint comes from.
I think it
was too obvious that Jey was going to mess up this tag team match.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem right.
Yeah. I think what they could have done is they could have played up more both guys tag history, and it'd be that both guys are in successful tag teams and both 100%. Have been put together with that rivalry aspect. Who might blow up first, who might,
Right.
can they get through the tag match in one piece?
The story
I
kind of is, though, that the roster can't trust Jay, in fairness. So, I mean,
Yeah, the
if they
roster,
both did it, then it kind
yeah,
of would
but
take
Jay,
away from this
but
entire
you can
story.
also there's the little bit of extra intrigue if
Sammy
Jay can't
seems
trust
to.
Kevin either, and I think there might just be an extra touch of intrigue on that. I'm nitpicking here. I am
Maybe, yeah.
nitpicking.
I do feel like we're all just kind of nitpicking the
Yeah.
segment a bit. But you said, David, he felt like he couldn't trust him, and talking about somebody who I don't think we can trust. Let's talk Drew McIntyre, because Drew McIntyre faced Xavier Woods on last night's episode of Raw. We know that McIntyre and Riddle currently are in a bit of a team. Riddle's, wasn't on last night's episode of Raw. If you guys saw on Instagram this week, he did an Instagram post where he made some claims about how he was handled in an airport by security. Then there was apparently police involved. There's different outlooks saying different things. We're not going to get into that, right? But Riddle, unsurprisingly, was not on Raw last night. And so instead, they just decided to not mention him whatsoever. They didn't mention him once, I don't think. I didn't hear the name once. But neither was Kofi. McIntyre and Woods, had their match. Woods was kind of having to go backstage at McIntyre. McIntyre got in Woods' face, said, "You don't want to do this." Woods said, "Yeah, I do." They had a match. It wasn't like it was a full-blown heel turn at all for Drew McIntyre, but McIntyre got the win against Woods in what I thought was a really, solid mid-card match. A Drew McIntyre heel turn, a full-blown McIntyre heel turn has to come to me. That's the only thing which makes sense in this situation. But Clark, give me your take on this.
This is perfect. The seed has been planted for the heel turn, like you said. And it's so obvious. It's so great. Kofi Kingston got to win the title at WrestleMania 35 in front of a big old crowd, bunch of screaming fans. Drew McIntyre won it at the Performance Center in front of a couple of cameramen and women, whoever was holding the cameras. But that's the story we're being told. And I think WWE has struggled to tell personal rivalries outside of the title picture for a while. I would love Kofi Kingston versus Drew McIntyre to build long enough that it feels like a borderline co-main event, if not main event type pay-per-view PLE match, premium live event match. Please do that. Build that for McIntyre's heel turn. Build the two. Make it feel like it really outside of the titles. This one matters a ton because of the emotion and all of that. There is such a story to be told. Woods was just the start here. Just a little, maybe even if McIntyre wants to go all the way, go after Big E. Not literally attacking him, but say something about him. That might be the first seed planted, or the next seed planted, I'm sorry, as far as this heel turn is concerned after this original one. But I agree with you. It's heel turn or bust. And I want the heel turn to come on the back of, you got Kofi Mania and I got nothing. That would make so much sense to me, and it's such good storytelling that I think is the next perfectly logical step out of Drew McIntyre.
Absolutely. I do agree with you there. You mentioned Big E. What if, he defeats Kofi, he uses, heel methods to beat Kofi McIntyre, and then Big E returns and we get Big E versus McIntyre. I mean, if Big E is able to return, I'd love to see that match again. But talking about things that I love, Gunther is now the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion. And he came out on Raw with Imperium for the title celebration, and it was a fun segment. But halfway through Gunther's promo, out came Chad Gable. And this kind of surprised me, to be honest with you, because I thought that this Gable storyline was over. I thought it was a phenomenal story, but I thought it just had the perfect ending. Gable's dreams being crushed for the time being, Gunther looking like a monster, and just reaching that milestone of being the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion. I don't think they need to run this back right away. Maybe in 6 months, sure. Or even maybe a little bit shorter than that, even 3, 4. I don't think running it back right now. I mean, why? Gable lost. He lost, he lost. There's no reason for this now for Gable to get another shot at him again. I don't I'm not really a fan of this at all. I don't think the story is going to hit as hard. The second time, or I mean, it will be their fourth match. But regardless, right? They had a great promo exchange. I'll say that much. Otis then came out to make the save when Gable was getting beaten down, and then out came Ciampa, setting up a 6-man tag team match. In the end, Gable did get the victory as Gunther had to watch. It's clear as day they're set up for Gable Gunther, and I'm not really here for it yet. I'd love to see it in a few months' time. I think this is way too early. Let Gable, rebuild Gable. Maybe do Ciampa versus Gunther. In fact, do Ciampa versus Gunther. I'd be fine with that. David, give me your take.
Well, I think Ciampa versus Gunther is actually where they're going next. I think that'll be their stopgap before they get to Ciampa, before they get to Gable again. Even so, I do think it is too soon to do Gable Gunther for. As much as I've enjoyed all three of their matches a great deal, I think they have some of the best chemistry in the company. I agree with you. He lost clean. There's nothing. The whole I beat you once, I can beat you again is a great story a few months down the line. Just don't do it yet. Also, it's going to be quite sacrilegious for me to say this. I thought Gunther's promo was fantastic. I thought Gable's was a bit shoddy in its delivery. And please don't hate me. Please don't hate me. It's just most of it was good. Most of it was good. There's just the actor in me. He started towards the end to get into this thing where he was emphasizing certain words that felt like he'd remembered in his head that he had to emphasize certain words. Because if I talk to you and I really need to get what I want, and I'm going to keep talking like this, it sounds like an actor speaking. It doesn't sound like a person speaking.
I take it back. You're right.
Horribly nitpicky. I know. Gable's amazing. He is amazing. I'm being picky again. But the 6-man was fantastic. It was really, really good fun. Gunther, they look so cool, Imperium, in those suits, by the way. I'm going back and forth between them now, but yeah. So I think I'd love to see them do Gunther versus Ciampa, because I think Gunther and Ciampa is actually possibly the most underrated match of the 2020s.
Okay.
Because when people talk about amazing Gunther matches, his match with Ciampa never comes up. And
no, you're right.
It's one of my favorite matches of 2021, the match they had in NXT. They beat the stuffing out of each other, where Gunther won with the chop. And just brilliant match. I'd love to see that run down again on the main roster, give Ciampa something to do, because the DIY story seems to be put on hold again. So yeah, I think the segment was good. I thought Gunther was great, loved loads of his points. Gable, what he said was fine. Thought the delivery was a bit shoddy. Sorry, Gable. And the 6-man was fantastic, and Gable's amazing, and I want to see that match again. Just not yet. Give it a little bit of time.
I mean, you made a great point there, David, and you said, felt like you were nitpicking or whatever. I actually think the point you made it is fantastic, and constructive feedback as well. It's not like you just trashed the promo. You said what the issue was.
Once you explained, I felt bad. I jumped in earlier and did the too late thing, and then I was like, actually, no, you're like spot on. That's on me.
He is amazing.
I jumped the gun.
Some incredible promos. Promos. Just didn't think this was one of them.
He's got charisma. I agree with you though on that. That when you explained it with the acting and the emphasis on the words, I was like, dang, you're right. Like 100% on that.
We've got a comment here from Numero 1 Superfly saying, do you think Adam Pearce or someone should have told Ciampa that Gargano was found? I mean,
why bring him back to have Omos squash him on a live event? Wow!
I completely forgot that he has made that return now. I mean, I don't know where they're going with this. Obviously, Ciampa was trying to get a story over on social media. The story was not kayfabe. WWE were not acknowledging that storyline, at least on television.
They did a week or two ago, I think.
No, they didn't acknowledge it on TV. People misinterpreted or something that he said, but it was never properly acknowledged. He made a reference. He made a tease of reference to Gargano, but he wasn't going around looking for Gargano with the flyers. Yes, that was it. Yeah,
that could obviously be another tease, but he's done that so many times.
Yeah.
That you never know at this point.
They need to bring DIY back because they're a great tag team. I don't understand, but it's a rant for another day.
Gunther, please. Please.
Ooh, I'd be down for that.
Please.
Ciampa Gunther, Gargano Gunther. Take my money.
Gunther, everybody.
Like talking about taking money. Somebody took a lot of WWE's money when he jumped ship in 2022 or 2021. It was Cody Rhodes. And Cody Rhodes came out on Raw last night and he just couldn't. Right, okay, I enjoyed last night's Raw. This was maybe the most pointless segment I've seen in a long, long time. Cody Rhodes came out, was going to say something about Jey Uso. I presume he was going to say that he's heading to SmackDown, as that's my prediction at least. But he said nothing. The Judgment Day interrupted. They said nothing. And then Dominic and, Cody started fighting a bit. JD attacked from behind, although then Cody just tugged at them too. So JD and Dom looked like idiots. Cody didn't say anything. I don't get what the point in this was. Clark, can you try and enlighten me? Or do you have no idea?
You picked the right guy. So what do you want to talk about, Ben? I mean, what in the world was that? Like, I mean, it's like they listened to me joke about the tie clip and just made that spot. And by the way, I got to make a correction. Monday Night Raw, you mean Monday Night Judgment Day? What is it, every other segment? Like, I've seen enough purple, they might as well change the aesthetic for the whole show. It's ridiculous. I don't get it. What are we building? Huh? Who? Why? I don't understand. Who's mad at who for what? I mean, the biggest pop of the whole promo was Norfolk, Virginia. Shout out Norfolk. You guys love hearing your own city name. And that's awesome. But other than that, Cody Rhodes asked us what I wanted to talk about and did exactly what I complained about in the spring. And that's not talk about anything. Then we got the Judgment Day back out. And this was another just toss away. Look at this segment that I never understood when they happen, why they happen, what we're doing. It's all good. We get it. Cody wears a suit. And once he pulls it off, he can hit a crossroads and a Cody cutter. And that's sweet. It's amazing that he's so good with the springboard and dress shoes. That's my biggest takeaway from the segment, Ben.
It's a dark segment that made its way to television.
Yeah,
it's something you do so the live crowd can say, "Oh, I saw Cody Rhodes," but why was it on TV? What was the point?
I really, really don't. You're right, David. This could have just been a promo Cody could cut to the live crowd after the show. Maybe have a dark match. That would have made a lot more sense. I mean, number one Superfly here is saying that all I got from Cody's promo was that they're simply stalling. And I think you're bang on there, but talking about things which I think, they're stalling. Let's talk about Seth Rollins versus Nakamura, because of course they're going to be running that match back very, very shortly. But every week, you think you're going to get it and then you don't. Seth Rollins came out, and I actually say that's not even true. We're not going to get it until the next Premium Live event. But Seth Rollins came out, called out Nakamura. Nakamura had a bit of a video package. I'm enjoying this feud between them, but I think they need to... It felt like it wasn't advanced as much as I would have liked this week. It was fine. I'm not going to complain about it, but I think they could have done a little more. For a world title feud, I don't think if this was Roman's title, it would have gotten as little airtime as Seth's sometimes getting on Raw at the minute. This feud, I think, needs to be built up a little better. But David, do you have any ideas on how they could do that?
I have here. If I just rotate this slowly, so much wheel spinning. So that's the worst joke I've ever made. It's a cap of a drinks flask. I need friends. Anyway, this was another nothing. Seth is really good. I think they're doing the Orange Cassidy with Seth. I think they're doing it every time he wrestles. He's getting more and more broken down, the issues with his back and everything like that. Difference is Orange Cassidy was on TV every week wrestling. Seth is great. I love Seth. The promo felt like was good promo, same stuff we've seen from him before. Nakamura was a good promo, same stuff we've seen from him before. I could see it actually being a WWE special and it being a triple threat, and it being Rollins versus Nakamura versus Ricochet when we eventually get it. But I feel like Seth could be Like, because Roman's never there and he's never defending his title. So Seth's way could be to defend it every couple of weeks on. Ironically, what's happened with Rhea and what's happened with Rollins, and like, surely Rollins should be the guy having TV main event title defenses, and Rhea should be a pay-per-view wrestler rather than her having Raw main events. I feel like Rollins could benefit from having a main event match against an upper mid-card guy, and them going 15 minutes and them having a great match, and that be the guarantee every week, is that you're going to get a Rollins world title match, but every match he's getting more and more broken. Granted, it is just the Cassidy story again, but I think that's what they're doing. You know, them trying to tell him to slow down and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, I got no real interest in seeing Rollins and Nakamura too. The triple threat I'm more interested in because I love Ricochet. But, I mean, yeah, there's so many feuds right now. I feel like they're just continuing from Payback. And I don't feel like they're giving you enough reason to keep watching in this kind of thing, because it is just, we're doing Miz versus LA Knight again, we're doing Gunther versus Gable again, we're doing Rhea and Raquel again, we're doing, you know, every feud seems like just again and again and again, and it's the same case with this, and it's just like, I could take or leave it. Good, fine segment. Thought Seth looked hideous in his outfit. I think that was the point. But you know, it looked like something that, you know, your grandma would find at a charity, at a thrift shop, and you know, that think it looked really expensive and put it on, and actually costs about £2.50. But it was fine. This was all a decent segment, because Seth's good and Nakamura is good. Just more wheel spinning, more stalling.
I mean, you made a great point about Payback there. It does feel like all the feuds have continued since then, and the name Payback suggests that, you know, that's going to be the end of a feud, not the beginning of one.
It seems like a lot of debts weren't paid back. That's what it's starting to feel like.
I will agree. I mean, I do like the idea of chucking in Ricochet there, like you said, David. I think that could be fun. Adding a little Ricochet flavoring on top.
It's just different. Something we haven't seen. Just doing Rollins Nakamura again is like, I've seen it. I've watched it. Rollins
it weirdly feels like they're like, we should have had this with AJ. Seth, can you do it? Like, it does feel like that in a sense, almost like, oh yeah, we should have had the Nakamura AJ rivalry. Like, that's looked back on in hindsight, like not what it should have been. Like, Seth, can you?
Yeah.
Can you make it?
It's just nothing really, isn't it? It's good nothing, but in my opinion, that's a lot of Raw in a nutshell right now. It's quite good nothing.
It's more than the Cody promo, is what I would say.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, there was substance to this at least.
Yeah. It was they moved in a direction. They just didn't move very far.
By the way,
in the Cody promo, they didn't even move.
I've been having to praise him recently. I'm so glad he messed up last night. I was so stoked when I got that segment.
Like that.
No, it's not even that he messed up personally. It was just that I could criticize him. I feel more in my wheelhouse.
Imagine getting told, Clark, okay, you need to go out in front of 10,000 people or 16,000 people, I think it was, and who were with millions watching on TV, and say absolutely nothing, but make it sound interesting. Oh, and you only have 30 seconds before you can.
You're making it about Cody. This is about me, Ben. Well, I just miss being able to criticize him week in, week out.
I seem to remember, Clark, a certain other person had that issue on the night after WrestleMania, and it's the man we've just spoken about, which is Seth Rollins. Come out, have 30 seconds, make it interesting, and then bugger off.
Yeah, but
it was confusing.
He's not as much fun to dog.
True. I like Cody.
Not even close.
Agreeing with you.
I know. I got you, David.
I like Cody.
I like Cody too. I like Kobe and Cody.
Before Clark starts going on a rant about Cody or Kobe, let's move on and let's instead go on a rant about Nia Jax. I'm only joking, and I'm going to get into that in just a second. But Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Rodriguez for the World Women's Championship was the main event of Monday Night Raw. And these two women actually put on, I thought, a really solid match, right? Until, of course, the interruption. But I thought that they put on a really good match. All things considered, it was fun. Worthy Raw main event. And then, of course, Nia Jax returned. She took out Raquel Rodriguez. The referee became blind for 30 seconds. Didn't see this because he was too busy looking at Rhea Ripley, despite the fact he could blatantly hear what was happening behind him. Rhea Ripley then managed to beat Raquel Rodriguez because of that, and then Nia Jax took out Rhea Ripley and was standing tall, finishing the episode. First things first, online this morning, everybody was saying this is Vince's last show that he wanted to do one final FU to all the people who don't like him by bringing back Nia Jax. Well, all the people who were saying that were also the ones blaming him completely for the WWE releases, which included Nia Jax. I mean, which one is it here? Also, it was not Vince's last Raw. Complete nonsense if you don't think he's going to continue to be involved, because he is. He's still, he's still the executive chairman of the new company. He's got not as much power as ever, but he's got almost as much power. He's still going to have a big say in creative. Triple H will be reporting to Nick Khan, who will be reporting to Vince McMahon, who will be reporting to Ari Emanuel, and Vince will not be reporting about any creative decisions to Ari Emanuel. He's not going to waste his time there. But let's talk about Nia Jax. She is back. And I mean, the internet's been very mean to her, haven't they, really? I think it's a bit unjustified. Let's be real about it. Let's not, walk around it here. She botched a lot. She did. There's no denying it. That is true, whatever. But I felt like she improved. I really thought she did. And she's somebody who clearly cared about the industry. She's somebody who I thought when she left the company was really working hard to, come back. And she's gotten in really great shape as well. I'm not judging this yet. I'm excited to see where this goes. They need more people for, Rhea Ripley anyway. So if I was WWE, I'd bring Nia Jax in on a short-term deal, 6 to a year, 6 to 12 months. I'd be okay with that. But let's just hope, obviously, there's no botches and all of that stuff. But I'm giving Nia Jax the benefit of the doubt. I want to be entertained, and the Raw Women's Division needs more challenges for Rhea Ripley. Nia Jax, Raquel Rodriguez, Rhea Ripley at the next Premium Live event. Let's see how it goes. It's intriguing, to say the least. David, give me your thoughts on this one.
So, first of all, I'd like to talk about Rhea and Raquel a little bit, because it baffles me with Triple H's recent. Why is it that we have kind of slightly middling pay-per-view matches to build to quite good television matches for titles? Why, like, we had it with Natalya and Rhea. We had it with Rhea and Raquel. We had it with Gunther and Riddle, although I really like Gunther and Riddle. Money in the Bank, some people didn't, so they had a better match on. Well, maybe it's just the make good. If something doesn't quite go to plan, you just do a better version of it on TV. But surely the pay-per-view should be the pinnacle of that match, should be the big featured attraction, not just a build to another match a week or two later. With that said, I really liked a lot of Rhea and Raquel. I think they've got really good physicality between them. I think there were bits of it got a bit boring, and then obviously the finish all went a bit apart. But I did enjoy a lot of the physicality here, and I do think both women are terrific wrestlers. And yeah, I thought it was a worthy main event and a good main event. As for Nia Jax, when I woke up this morning and I saw that Nia Jax had come back, my first thought was, oh. Then I thought about it and I thought, well, at the end of the day, I don't particularly like Nia Jax as a television character. I'm not that bothered about it, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, this was somebody who did dedicate a lot of herself to the industry, who got quite unceremoniously cut. She's got a job back. She's earning money. She's not awful. She's just not really my cup of tea. She does botch a lot. I hope that she's, that's kind of gone from her game. She's a decent power wrestler. I think she's had some really good moments in WWE. And I think she can do good stuff in WWE if they treat her right. And I think Rhea and Nia Jax is fine if Nia's improved. Because I do think she is a presence, and that there is a kind of a heavyweight clash there. I think there's no point me sitting here and dogging on some. I can dog on bad booking, I can dog on bad wrestling, but I'll never dog on somebody getting a job. Like she's getting paid money. Whatever she does on TV, that's what we have to, criticize. She looked fine on TV. Thought the bonsai drop she did was good. I enjoyed her kind of slapping Rhea on the floor. That was quite fun. She was fine. Now it's just a case of leaving it and seeing where they go. And there's, like I said, there's no point dogging on it before I've seen it, like you said, Ben. And I'm willing to see where it goes. I'm not that bothered about Rhea versus Nia. I'll be honest, I'm not. But if they can make it work, I will be more than happy. I just wish they could also elevate some of their other women that sat there not doing anything right now.
That's true.
I feel like that could be a little bit of a kick in the teeth to some of them. That's the only thing I'll say. But I do think that there's definitely potential here. She may not be my cup of tea, Nia Jax, but she is others, and I hope she does a great job.
Yeah, no, I will agree. I think you made you said it. I think you said it fantastically. There we got a comment as well from Josh Markowitz. Shout out to Josh, who's saying, David, I thought you were the special guest referee when you.
Yes.
Oh, that referee like attire.
I mean,
it's Beetlejuice, by the way. It's Beetlejuice. It's not. It's no sports jerseys here. It's just Beetlejuice.
I enjoyed the match personally, and I really love that you have basically the two biggest powerhouses in the women's division on Raw, head to head, and you bring in the only powerhouse that can throw them both around, the only one with the size advantage that can throw them both around. You know what I mean? That's what I truly enjoyed. I've been actually a long time Nia Jax fan, weathered the storm through all of it. Like I'm happy to have her back. There's a reason she was in the Women's Rumble and took that RKO from Randy Orton. That she's more talented than people realize and got a bad rap. But when it comes to last night, I got to say this. I'm sorry, guys. Yesterday was 9/11, and Zelina Vega's still on this roster. And given her backstory with her father and everything that happened, last night should have been Zelina Vega's night. The fact that she didn't appear on the card is ridiculous to me. It makes no sense in the world, especially given what happened in Puerto Rico. That's who should have had that world title opportunity, win or lose. In my eyes, last night should have been Zelina Vega's night, and I just have to say that because knowing the history and knowing the backstory of all of that, it's not only a stone unturned, but it's more than a deserving talent. And David made the point earlier about Nia Jax being brought in, overshadowing others. That might be one, because Zelina Vega should have very much been in that main event against Rhea Ripley last night on September 11th. There's almost no doubt in my mind.
I mean, the one argument I'd have with that is, of course, you know, she's on another brand, but let's be real, they've broken the brand split this year already for, you know, a lot less good reasons than that. So I guess, yeah, I do agree with you that they could have done that.
On top of that, given WWE's history being the first show back post 9/11, it would be such a poetic, I mean, just a beautiful thing, right? You know, her father's favorite wrestler was The Rock. He recently, this basically month, went to the 9/11 memorial and took a picture next to the stone with her father's name on it, right? And it's that, and this is no knock on Raquel, no knock on Nia Jax, anything that happened. I enjoyed the match, but that should have been Zelina's spot.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, it is. I've not something that crossed my mind when the show didn't even dawn on me, to be honest with you, during it. I think, you know, whether or not, I think, you know, it would have been lovely to have seen her in the main event, but now that you've brought it up, to not have her on the show at all.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you know what we could have done if you really didn't want to do, if you wanted to get the main event to go as planned, have it be Shayna versus Zelina instead of Shayna versus Chelsea Green, and have Zelina win, or have a roller up or something.
Yeah, they with the roll up. Yes,
I think they're trying to build up Shayna. I think they are trying to build up Shayna. I don't think they want Shayna to.
Even this one's so separate. I think
even as a Brit, you know, who has a lot less connection.
I wouldn't have done it against Shayna. I would have done it against somebody else.
David, what were you saying?
Well, I'm only saying Shayna because she was on the show. And the Shayna versus Chelsea thing was kind of just there, you know. So you could have still, you know.
Zelina versus Chelsea, perhaps.
Anything, at least a spot. Anything. But I do think that there was, I mean, given what happened in Puerto Rico and given that story, I mean, it's just tragic, right? She promised her father she was going to win the title, right? And he passed in the towers in 9/11, right? And it's one of those things that just, to me, that tugged on my heartstrings once I kind of quantified that. I assumed we would see her, and that she would get ample time, and that would be, you know, something that I think is worth it for not only the WWE, but more importantly, Zelina's deserved it and earned it.
Absolutely.
Over the last, more than earned it.
I could not agree with you there more, Clark. I mean, the only thing that I will just mention briefly is maybe she wanted to, have that day off. I mean, that's
Possible.
the only
Very
thing
possible.
there. But guys, that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you so much for watching. If you're on YouTube, please hit a like and subscribe. If you're on Spotify, audio only, please leave a cheeky 5-star review. They help us a ton move up the rankings on there. We'll be back same time tomorrow to preview AEW Dynamite, talk a few other things. Will be a fun show. Thank you, David. Thank you, David. And thank you to Clark for joining me here today. It's been a great show. We'll be back tomorrow, and we will see you then. I wonder if Becky will win the NXT Championship tonight. And to find out what happens, tune into NXT off the air immediately following NXT with Clark, Drizzy, and Shard. We'll see you guys later.